Are we live? I think we might be. And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Today we are doing the final PMQ stream response of the calendar year. Because Parliament's going into recess now. Well, only for a few weeks. I think 3 back on January the 7th. That's probably only 2, actually. No, it'll be 3. Doesn't matter. There are a number of subjects, including a minor, somewhat scandal at the end of it, which is quite interesting, really. And I mean interesting in the sense that it's been all over Twitter with the hashtag, I believe the hashtag was #StupidWoman, which I did put at the top of my hashtags here, but if you notice in the description, hashtags Brexit, PMQs, #StupidWoman, but at the top of the video title, #StupidWoman didn't make the cut. I wonder if that was left out because, you know, misogyny. I think that'd be quite funny if it was. And I do think that's more than likely going to be the hashtag that gets this stream demonetized, although I've got the stream on myself to read the chat, and I have an ad. Yay. I'm giving myself shackles. Anyway, the subject of today's stream, or PMQs, is mostly Brexit. And there are a few interesting points that come up. There's one at the end especially, with South Africa, but it isn't asked by either Corbyn or Blackford. It's asked just after Blackford. And I do want to cover it, because Theresa May's response was so rubbish. It was quite sad, really. So, let us pull the stream up so I can see it and wind it back because I literally just finished watching it. Here we go. Fantastic, isn't it? Yes. Let's start.
Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Mike Amesbury. Question number 1.
There's going to be a lot of virtue here. So much virtue. I'm going to let it play out because I want you to suffer with me. Consider it my Christmas gift to all of you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this Friday marks 30 years since the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie.
Interesting thing about Lockerbie. Many have said they put the wrong man in prison. And it's such a contentious issue. Whether it was it Magani? Is that his name? Or not? I always thought that was quite interesting because I think even the UN condemned them. Oh, and to the chat. Hello, Swan, Perfectly Faded Delusions. Hello, Anne. How you doing? Hello, Socky, Tom, Serene, and Patriarch of the Sith. Yes. Time of suffering, you're quite right, so I'll let her continue to make you all suffer. Must break the chains, everyone.
It was the biggest loss of life from a terrorist atrocity on UK soil. I know that the thoughts of the whole House will be with the families and friends of the 270 people who perished and all those whose lives have been affected. Mr. Speaker, may I wish all members and staff a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Fuck you.
And I'm sure that the whole House will want to join me in sending our warmest Christmas wishes to all our armed forces who are stationed overseas. I'm sure that I also speak on behalf of the whole House in sending Christmas wishes to all members of the emergency services and those who will be working over Christmas.
Now, that last bit, to those working over Christmas, I've got to pick on this, because I'm working over Christmas. Does she mean me too? Am I being included in this, or is it just for those emergency service people who are working over Christmas? I overthought this a little earlier. I wouldn't mind a little help here.
Their service and sacrifice is inspirational.
Okay, it's not me.
And we owe them a great debt of gratitude. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Mike Amesbury.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to wish everybody here a Merry Christmas, the Prime Minister and all members of the House as well.
Very generous.
The Prime Minister may recall that during the first Prime Minister's questions of 2018, I asked her to do more to support the victims of the leasehold mis-selling scandal.
Right. I actually remember him when he asked this question, and it's a really important question. Hello, James. Hello, Graham and Leo. And Sir Blue-Footed Booby. Where is the... Oh, I'm going to refresh this. 1 second. I will pull up the source, because I actually had to look this up. So, first of all, we need to know... I don't know if anyone knows what a leasehold is, but leaseholds are homes that are sold as a freehold, and the buyer then has complete control of the property. That's what a freehold is anyway. But leasehold is when the buyer is only basically a tenant. They buy it with a very long-term rental. That's generally how it works. I've heard of leaseholds existing for up to 100 years on some properties, and the lease being an issue with others not wanting to buy the property because they'd only get it for like 60 years. Now, the reason they've become a problem is because in the past, those leasehold property owners were charged what's called ground rent, for as little as £1 a year, but then but there was a charge, a clause even, into the contracts where the ground rent was set at like £200 to £400 a year, but it would double every 10 years. And then it would spiral out of control to the point where ground rent then blew up to over 10 grand a year on a property where it wasn't worth that in the long run. Now, it's been estimated over 100,000 home buyers are trapped in these contracts, and it's not really the ground rent that's the issue, to be honest. But there are additional charges that make it a problem. Now, many have asked why don't leaseholders just sell up and get out? But most can't, because the homes they are trying to sell are unsaleable because of the terms, because the lenders, especially, they won't grant the mortgages against the homes with these ground rent clauses. And solicitors solicitors typically warn buyers off from buying them, but others have not gone to a solicitor first. Now, many would now ask, can a leaseholder buy their freehold? Well, yeah, they can, but unfortunately the homeowner, or the supposed homeowner, if they try and buy the freehold, they could be charged 40 grand a pop. And many people don't have that. Now this leads on to the additional questions of, why are freeholds expensive to buy? It's because rent is at a ridiculously high rate right now. It's basic economics. If you want to look at Cornwall as a fantastic example of properties being bought up by others, forcing locals to move out, but then trying to get properties back, they'd only get them on leasehold, not freehold. It's quite sad. Why is my chat not popping on this? It's not popping again, and I can't see you. I'm sorry. The government has, and he's going to ask, they proposed a ban on future sales of houses as leasehold and cutting the ground rent to 0. But nothing's actually happened since, really. So I'll let him ask his question, but I do want to check the chat quickly. There is actually chat going on, I do apologise. Rent is stupid. It depends. Seaside towns, my seaside town especially, they've tried, they have lots of people buying, quotes, holiday homes. My view generally is, if you're not living here full time, fuck off, because we have enough of you're well within your right to own a holiday home, but could you not sublet it to somebody when you're not there? Let somebody else have somewhere to live when you're not around, because otherwise we're just sat here with stupid empty houses. Well, good stupid empty houses for that matter. I think it's a waste. I fully support people's right to own property, by the way. I just don't like the idea of buying up lots of properties and not using them. Or using them for a very, very short amount of time. Yeah, let's continue.
Can I use the last Prime Minister's questions of the year to ask whether she's done anything about it or whether she's going to kick it into the long grass as she has done with the meaningful votes?
To be clear, the meaningful vote actually will happen, I believe, on the 7th of January, but we will get to that soon.
Can I say to the honourable gentleman that we have, in fact, been taking action in relation to leaseholds, because we want to make...
I'm going to try something, see if I can get my chat to pop. I'm going to write in my chat. Give me a sec. Is it going to pop? No, it's not. Give me a second, everyone, because I do need to be able to see you. Oh, worst comes to actually, no, I could just pop this chat out so I can see it. Pop out chat. There we go. I can now see you all. Yeah, well, Serene, yeah, it might not, but I know we'll get to it. It all comes down to something we're going to get to soon enough. Boomerism infectious. I would say it is, but unfortunately for me, the Streamlabs chat isn't working on this scene, but it is working on this one, which is weird because it was working at the start. Doesn't matter now, I guess. Let's continue. And I'm not a boomer, I think. They don't? Oh, I'm so sorry. What the fuck? I think an update happened with Windows or Streamlabs because it's just not been working for a few days now. Let me just see if I can see if the chat's not working for a reason. I do apologise. I wish I'd noticed. Thank you very much, Leo Wolfish, for the £5 donation, though. And I'm really sorry it didn't pop. I have no idea why Streamlabs isn't working, because it was last week and I haven't made... Oh, it's OBS, do you think, Saki? Okay. I will check OBS and Streamlabs settings after this. I do have it open, though, if anyone does donate. Just nudge me in the chat. I do apologise. But yes, we will get to the EU, the meaningful vote soon enough. I have got Hansard, which will be relevant to a question Corbyn is going to ask soon enough.
Sure that the leasehold system is fair and transparent to the consumer, so their home truly feels like their own. In July, my right honourable friend, the Housing Secretary, announced that no new government funding scheme will be used to support the unjustified use of leasehold for new houses. And our technical consultation on how to improve the leasehold market for consumers is now closed. We've had responses from almost 1,300 people and organisations. We're analysing the responses and we will introduce legislation as soon as parliamentary time allows.
Alberto Costa!
All of what she said is bullshit. Just going to say now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will know that the issue of British nationals living in the EU and EU nationals living in the UK is a matter of the utmost importance to every member of this House. Given the comments made by the Prime Minister, her welcome comments when she came back from Salzburg about protecting the rights of EU nationals, at least those resident up until the 29th of March, in the event of no deal, can she confirm to this House that in the event of no deal, and I hope that won't be the case, that she will get a legally binding multilateral agreement with the EU on the issue of citizens' rights ahead of the 29th of March?
Right, so this actually raises something we're going to come to again later, because there have been some recent rumblings that both sides are now ramping up no deal, with there being a rumour that Juncker is going to consider kicking out expats from the country. And I've got a picture we will get to later, but on it there's a quote that I will show you when the rest of it's relevant. It says the Commission warned that the UK nationals living in the bloc will be subject to its rules on the right to enter, reside and work in the EU member states. It says UK nationals in EU countries should be granted temporary residence status while their new immigration status is determined. For short, for short stays up to 90 days in a 180-day period, the Commission has adopted a proposal for Regulation 13 which exempts UK nationals from visa requirements, provided that all Union citizens are equally exempted from UK visa requirements. Which I can support. You know, if there's a basic agreement on both sides, I get it. And people seem to forget this. Just because there is no deal does not mean they cannot agree on something anyway. The deal is meant to be like an all-encompassing thing. It doesn't rule out negotiating things like this. You still have to negotiate no deal. Because apparently that's a thing. The ham better not be green. And our bananas better not be straight. Oh wait, hang on, is that what we want? Who knows? It's a mystery.
Well, can I say my honourable friend is absolutely right, of course, and has consistently raised and championed the needs and concerns of EU citizens here in the UK. And our withdrawal agreement does guarantee those rights, and that's important not just for individuals but also for businesses. We're clear that in a no-deal scenario, EU citizens resident in the UK by the 29th of March 2019 will be able to stay and will be able to continue to access in-country benefits and services on broadly the same terms as now. That demonstrates our ongoing commitment. We obviously want to work with and are strongly engaging with EU counterparts to urge them to make the same commitment to protect the rights of UK nationals who are living in the European Union. We've been clear about the rights of EU nationals here in a no-deal scenario. We want the EU to do the same for UK citizens living in the 27.
Junker will kind of shit on that later.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Buckle in, everyone. More virtue coming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the Prime Minister in remembering the events at Lockerbie 30 years ago. I remember the silence that fell on this entire building when the news came out of what had happened at Lockerbie. And for the people of Lockerbie, the trauma lives on. And for the families of the victims, it also lives on, and we should remember them today. Mr. Speaker, can I also take this opportunity to wish you and all members of the House and everyone around our country a very happy Christmas, and particularly to those that have to work over Christmas, and of course our armed services that will also be on duty over the Christmas period, and all the best for a peaceful and welcome 2019. Mr. Speaker, well, I've gained acquiescence. My Christmas good wishes do extend to everyone over there as well. However, until then, Mr. Speaker, I just have to say this.
I'm glad you all are here to suffer this cringe with me.
The Prime Minister has plunged this country into a national crisis. She refused Parliament the right to vote on her Brexit deal. She said that she did that to seek further assurances.
The divine potato. No, you haven't.
She failed. She's now claiming that she is still seeking further assurances, while all the time running down the clock on the alternatives. So can the Prime Minister explain to us when the European Council will meet to approve the changes that they have already ruled out?
Right, firstly, Leo Wolfish, if you like, I will play Mr. Blobby again. But and it's a fantastic song. Will we get superpowers after being exposed to this much toxic waste? One can only hope. Either that or you'll just melt. Now, he asks when the EU Council will meet to vote on these renegotiated deals. Right, I am going to pull up this source here. This is the EU's Council meetings. Right, we leave at the end of March. These new ideas here, well, if they happen, they'd have to happen here because this is when the EU next meet. Theresa May is going to say something. She's going to say that she, in her statement, indicated when that will happen. Well, I have her statement here. And I have gone through this. I actually watched it. to get the whole gist of it, to understand when the EU Council, as he has asked, would meet up and discuss this. And I have read this and found absolutely no indication that the EU Council will meet up. I did notice here, so my right honourable friend, the leader of the House, will set up business on Thursday in the usual way, but I can confirm today that we intend to return to the meaningful vote debate in the week commencing 7th of January and hold the vote the following week. So it would be the 14th. Earlier I said the 7th. I am incorrect. It was the 14th. This would be the debates that basically took place before, but again now, or in the future. There is no mention in this speech of any date at all. Minus speaker's interruptions, of course. Okay, I thought I'd put that out there because... Why is that? Oh yeah, I changed scene, didn't I? But yes, we are... let's put that there. She's wrong. She's going to say something that... She's going to respond incorrectly, and I thought I'd put it out there. Hit 1 or make Omegon play something worse. That's a good idea. 1 for Blobby and 1 for not. Oh, everyone's a winner, I guess. 69 Blobby needs to be napalmed. Right.
Can I say
that's
to the
hot
right
chat,
honourable
not
gentleman,
live
we are
chat.
indeed
Oops.
still working with the European Union. We have discussions with the European Union to seek those assurances that this House wanted us to seek. Can I just correct the right honourable gentleman on one particular point? He referenced the issue of the meaningful vote. We will have that meaningful vote here in the House. I set out earlier this week, well, there's absolutely no point in members on the other side of the House shouting out when, because I set out in the statement on Monday when that will take place. But
it's highly likely I may have misunderstood this when I was researching it. So she doesn't answer the question on the EU Council. Good to know.
Can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, week after week he has stood here on this issue and talked about what he's against. He never says what he's for.
But that's not the job of the opposition. The job of the opposition is to absolutely poop on you, and that's it. I do think he should come up with some solutions, but the only ones I've heard are second referendum or just remain a part of the bloc.
So if he wants to fulfil the will of the referendum, to support jobs, to end free movement, to do those trade deals...
She doesn't support the end of free movement. Her Home Secretary said it's not possible to get the numbers down to under 100,000. In fact, after this, there was a debate of sorts between Sajid Javid, or whatever his name is, and Diane Abbott. And they discussed, getting the numbers down. But they can't. You cannot do it. You don't have the skill for it. It's not surprising. Sajid Javid has outright said it'd be better for us to have the numbers at 100,000 a year. I tend to disagree based on the parameters they set, and some of the debate that took place included high-skilled jobs and people earning a minimum of 30,000 to be able to stay here. I got that. It made sense. That's only to I think that's more to protect the person coming here so they don't get conned out of money they're rightly due for doing the work that is high-skilled. And less about a chance of weeding people out on the grounds that they just don't make enough money. But that's not the position that Labour took, which is a shame.
...to avoid no deal, then he needs to vote for this deal. He can...
See, you're putting people into a corner. Either you vote for this deal or we enact no deal. That's it. That's what you're trying to do. And thank you, R. Cat's Gay. Will UK leave by default if no agreement reached? If no deal is reached, we will leave under World Trade Organization and we will operate under WTO rules. That's how it will work. There will be issues obviously with trade, but some of the current contracts do still exist and will continue to run until they run out. So it does depend. That some are long-standing, but there are a number of things that will stop or potentially stop. The point about there being no deal doesn't mean that a deal cannot be reached. It just means there's no transition period. It just stops.
Talk all he likes about a meaningful vote. All he gives us is a meaningless position.
Oh, play on words. That's cute. Not cute like Viper Sword, but cute nonetheless. Who is the least fuckable, May or Abbott? Well, I will ask the chat. Who is less fuckable? Theresa May, press 1. Diane Abbott, press any other number because honestly she can't count.
Mr. Speaker, we should have had the vote a week ago.
And she would have lost.
The Prime Minister denied Parliament the opportunity to have that vote. And she's still unclear as to when it will actually take place. Mr. Speaker, there are no meetings of the European Union Council scheduled until...
1 second. I had my phone buzz. That was important as well, I'm sure. Thank you, Socky, for the £10 donation. Dare you play the song I linked in DMs at the end of the show? We'll see about that. And to Carbon, thank you for the £2 donation. It's very kind of you. Hang on, I'm going to quickly check my DMs because I want to see what this is. I know this song as well. Might whip my guitar out to play that. That's quality.
Till the 21st of March. And the EU has been very clear, there are no more negotiations, clarifications or meetings. She will be bringing back the same deal she pulled last week. It's an intolerable situation and she's simply playing for time. Yep. And on Monday, in a response to a question from the Honourable Member for Belfast North on the backstop, she said, I'm seeking further political and legal assurances in relation to those issues which can be achieved in a number of ways.
Firstly, the references to Nigel Dodd here are all referenced in the Hansard, which I scrolled through a minute ago. A few minutes ago, in fact, where all questions later came after. Socky, the reason my phone buzzed is because that notified me of a donation, because apparently Streamlabs and OBS are not working at the moment. And to Leo Wolfish, I play both bass and guitar. I in fact have a bass. Hang on, you might be able to hear it. Oh, it's not in tune. Shit. No, it's fine. Behind me. And my guitars are on the wall behind me. The bass is nearest though. Propped up against some bongos, and I'm not going to get into why I have those.
The Prime Minister must clearly set out now how will she achieve these legally binding assurances before the House is due to return on the 7th of January?
He's got a playing this right. No, I actually picked on the E string when a pick was in the top of it, which meant it was always going to sound off. Yeah, it's in tune. We're good. We're all good. The question he has asked, I wish you were fuck off. The question he asked is quite valid, and I think that there should be some legal assurances on the supposed... They're not very good strings, to be fair, Patriarch of the Sith. They're like the most basic bitch strings. I am intending on replacing them, but I have yet to actually get any. But we do need to get legal assurances, and the fact that we haven't had any yet, especially on the supposed backstop-related... my E was wrong. Thank you, Saki. Oh, dear God. But yeah, we should get the legal assurances on this. The wanting to not enact the backstop. I think that's important.
We will set out what is achieved in our EU discussions when we return in the new year.
Will that be before or after you've finally come down from your hissy fit after being called nebulous?
When we have had those discussions, when we bring those assurances back. Can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, he can get as angry as he likes about this issue, but it doesn't hide the fact, that he has no Brexit plan.
Well, he does keep saying make way for those that can, while simultaneously not give anything away, which really does... You're not disruptive, Saki. It's quite an unusual thing to continually say you are the government in waiting, but not show your hand at all. Which I think there's some irony to, I guess, because ever since the Brexit negotiations started, it's all Labour have done. push for the government to show its hand. Continually push for them to show its hand. But now, because they're being put on the spot while they're under no legal obligation to do so, they haven't shown their hand. They won't. I don't know if it's because they have no idea what to do, and I'll be honest, I don't know where Tom Watson is, I have no idea who this guy is. He just looks really like, I know better than you. Where's his little finger on the bottom of his lip? And she just, well, Token. She just looks like Token. And yes, smash the like button to quotes whatever Socky just said. I'm not repeating that in case I get fucking struck. Is it possible that Corbyn does have a hand but won't show it because of not wanting Juncker to know? It's quite possible. It is possible, but Juncker has already said there will be no more negotiating. So even if there's a new government, him saying make way for a government that can negotiate a better deal is nonsense.
I know it's Christmas. I know he's looked in his stocking, down the chimney, under the Christmas tree. He still hasn't found a Brexit plan. He has to accept his responsibility to deliver on Brexit.
Oh, before Burko, Patriarch. No, I don't like fish dicks. Good try, though.
Order! You're normally, Mr. Yassin, a most composed, almost laid-back individual. You're becoming very hot-headed. I'm worried for your own sake. Calm down. Be a good fellow. The Prime Minister.
The Right Honourable Gentleman has to accept his responsibility for delivering on Brexit. And, you know, there are some people that say that the Leader of the Opposition just going through the motions.
Oh dear, we're about to get another really bad joke, but I get it, and actually she's got a point here.
What we saw this week is he isn't even doing that.
Right, so that's a reference to, and I can call back to a video I made earlier in the week, where Jeremy Corbyn finally mentioned he was going to table a motion of no confidence. Thing is, he said it, but he hasn't actually made it official, which means there is no motion of no confidence. The SNP have outright said they will do it if Jeremy Corbyn doesn't have the backbone to do it. And you know what? I want to see that. I want to see Ian Blackford waddle over to this little dispatch box, just waddle past, try and fit his way through, groping the paper, giving it a good old stroke, and try and hand over the piece of paper that tables that motion. Because I know deep down he wants to get a nice paper cut so he can crack one off to that gap. Is this UK Parliament or a Mexican soap opera? I wish it was a Mexican soap opera. I've watched one, they're very funny.
Mr. Speaker, it's the Prime Minister who's supposed to be undertaking the negotiation. It's the Prime Minister that's failed to bring an acceptable deal back. And if she doesn't like doing it, then step aside and let somebody else do it.
No, I don't think he has the capacity. I would like to see Keir Starmer here. I would like to see what he would have done. I'll admit, I would like to know whether or not he would honour the will of the people, or whether he would then go against them and vote in his best interests under the guise of it being in the national interest, which would be remaining a part of the customs union single market and basically just being members of the EU. Possibly. I don't actually know. Keir Starmer and a number of people have actually been kind of contradictory in what they would or would not do.
The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that she is stalling for...
Order. I made it clear that the Prime Minister must not be shouted down. No one should even bother trying to shout down the Leader of the Opposition. It won't work against the Prime Minister, and it won't work against the Right Honourable Gentleman. End of subject. Jeremy Corbyn.
Speaker, the reality is that the Prime Minister is stalling for time. There is still no majority for her shoddy deal in this House. It isn't stoical, it's cynical. And as the Honourable Member for East Surrey said, we have displacement activity designed to distract from last week's failed renegotiation. The International Trade Secretary said, and I quote, "I think that it is very difficult to support the deal if we don't get changes to the backstop. I'm not even sure if the Cabinet will agree for it to be put to the House of Commons." So can...
And Saki, her name is Dawn Butler. Token's name is Dawn Butler. How very African. Unrelated but Indian or Spanish paprika. I have no idea what joke that is. Yes.
Can the Prime Minister give us a cast iron guarantee the vote in this House will not be delayed yet again?
This is a valid question, because honestly, if the vote comes to Parliament on January 14th, day before my birthday, and she loses, which she will, that'll be like the birthday present, I guess, to me from Parliament. If it gets moved back, though, they then will have less than 2 months to have that vote and then get whatever else happens done before we leave. And there was something to this. Have I not come to the bit on... I pulled up all these sources and I get the strange feeling I have missed one or two. Like the EU threatened no-deal doomsday scenario. About air travel, Northern Ireland, financial services haulage, customs checks and benefits. But for some reason, what do you want for your birthday? I don't get presents, so because I've got to because my birthday I live another year. Yeah, my birthday's so close to Christmas, so it's just one of those weird things. You just don't. Yeah, just no one. It's one of those things, really. Which I'm quite accustomed to. Apparently, because I'm not the oldest or the youngest, it's typical of a middle child to vanish.
Yeah. I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, we have been very clear about the process that we are going through, and we have been
menopause.
Very clear about when the vote will be brought back to this House.
January 14th.
Now, of course, the details of that debate have to be discussed in the usual channels in the usual way. But the Right Honourable Gentleman made a response when I said he had a responsibility on delivering Brexit. Every member of this House has a responsibility.
Oh, excuse me. Stupid yawn. Okay, so they not just have a responsibility to the House, but they have a responsibility to their constituents and respecting the way their constituents voted. The majority of MPs, I think it was over 400 of them, voted to remain. But over 50% of those that voted to leave. So, are they going to vote in the national interest? And there are two types of national interest. There's national interest by respecting their constituents' vote, or national interest with a message in play that kind of goes against the actual national interest of what their constituents voted for. Because I think the Cabinet have a valid reason to vote in what they perceive to be national interest because they work on a different level. Whereas MPs, the rest of MPs, the common muck MP, they are there to vote in their constituents' interests and not in the party interest or the national interest. They're there to do what they're voted in to do. And I do tend to think, while she has said this will happen, I do think it could get delayed again. If it does, though, I can see John Bercow potentially... Okay, so the Speaker of the House does have a lot of power. I don't know if he could stop the meaningful vote from being delayed anymore. I don't know if he could do something to make it just happen. Based on the time frame, it's a very unusual circumstance. It's unprecedented, I believe. But he has powers that mean he can do things, which would include walking on water and sucking the best clit.
To deliver on Brexit. This is because, and 80% of the votes cast for members of this House were for members of this House who stood on a manifesto commitment to honour the referendum and deliver on Brexit.
Which I don't think they'll do.
And what people will say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, if he fails to recognise that he has a duty, as has everybody in this House, to deliver on Brexit, that once again he's just bottled it.
Yeah, okay, so she has the right to use that. I don't... Until I know what Corbyn wants to do, I'm kind of sat back thinking, what could Corbyn do? And I genuinely don't know if he could, in fact, say he had those 2 years to negotiate. Could he do a better job? In fact, let's make that a question for the chat. I'm sure it's a really biased, it'd be a biased answer anyway. But say Corbyn had the option. Press 1 if you think he will do a better job, and press 7 if you think he'd fuck it up worse than May. Waterboarding. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister didn't answer my question about a cast iron guarantee. She is the one that has denied Parliament the right to vote on this subject. So please, no lectures to Parliament when it's the Prime Minister that's denying MPs the possibility of a vote on this. We should have had a vote a week ago. We should now be debating practical alternatives. She is behaving in a disgraceful way that is frankly an outrage. Mr. Speaker, no deal would be a disaster for our country.
It would, but so would the bad deal being presented, and apparently the only two options on the table are bad deal or no deal.
And no responsible government would ever allow it.
Yes and no. If there is no other option on the table, then a responsible government will be Occam's razor at that point. If the only option available to them is to take no deal, or to enact no deal, and prepare for it just in case, then they should.
Just 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor said preparations for leaving with no deal could not be done in a matter of months.
I couldn't find this quote, by the way.
They would take years to complete.
I would say that he has done... the Chancellor's a bit of a special one, because there are conflicting sources. One pointing out that he'd set aside 4.2 billion earmarked for EU exit preparations, and that's great. And then but then for the 2018-2019 financial year, 1.5 of that billion was allocated, with $500,000 already been spent by ministers, but but projects mostly. It's not really, and he's been a bit, he's been accused of being a bit thrifty on this. He's been accused of hoarding the money. I don't know if he has been doing that. I know he's a Remainer, and he's a bit of a thrifty fuck, to be honest. He's the kind of guy I expect to be sat with a newspaper cutting out the vouchers out of newspapers. But I will pull this up. So we have an article here from The Sun. The one government department doing the most to stop no deal is the Treasury, which is an accusation from a cabinet minister. So that's not good for them. Another minister in a different ministry said even when the budget's allocated, it still needs to be released through business cases approved by the Treasury, and that's when the Treasury tries to restrict it. This is all down to no deal cash requests, which does, it does seem like he's holding back a little. But there was a first article here, which is where I referenced the 4.2 billion here. This is important, I guess, to know that money is being allocated for it, and we should prepare for that, just in case no deal does happen because a deal cannot be reached. It is reasonable to prepare for it. It's that whole concept of what you didn't do during the referendum. You didn't prepare to lose. You have to be retarded, actually, well, I'd argue brain dead, to think that you shouldn't consider what would happen if you lose. It's arrogance of the highest order. That's a lot of money to spend. Just saying. Let's go back to this.
No deal is simply not an option. So why doesn't the Prime Minister stop the pretense and stop wasting £4 billion in a cynical attempt to drive her deeply damaging deal through this House.
It's not going to get through Parliament.
If the right honourable gentleman doesn't want to see money being spent on no deal, he's got an easy answer. Vote for this deal.
That was a very short answer, wasn't it?
Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister is doing is a criminal waste of money.
Oh, excuse me again. Oh. No, it's I would argue it's not. Okay, the criminal part possibly. No, it's not. It's not criminal at all, in fact. It is a shrewd move to consider an option as a realistic possibility. Juncker himself has announced that the EU, have started preparing for no deal. They are themselves also preparing for this. Now, they're doing it to try and make us submit to them by saying, "Oh, we're going to be fine." Now, of course, when Juncker says it, he says it while 3 people hold him up because he's fucking off his tits. But yeah, yeah, risk intelligence. You got a point. I'm not convinced that he could have done a better job, but I'd like to believe that somebody could have. I don't know who. I know you're all going to say someone. I'm not convinced either. I keep confusing Frank Skinner with Dennis Skinner. I could keep confusing the two. One is an MP, the other is a comedian. Well, kind of comedian. But the MP in question, the MP is Dennis Skinner. When I had to think about that. When he said we gave the power to the EU, he was right. He was 100% right. We should not have gone to them to negotiate. They should have come to us to negotiate. We are a legitimate sovereign nation. They are not a legitimate anything past a trade deal. They are trying to become that, but they have failed in the most basic sense. If they really wanted to become a superpower, or become a legitimate country or body, or a state or republic, then why didn't they go down the path of the US? Actually have someone elected to represent them. Have a constitution, rather than 7 different bodies operating as, quotes, one. It's just not... It's not sensible to split your politics up in such an absolutely catastrophic way and not expect it to come crashing down eventually. Or think you can get people to... And I've seen people debate this. Give up sovereignty on certain powers. I don't agree with that stance. I think countries should retain autonomy because country supersedes the body that is trying to create itself as a republic or whatever. It's not legitimate enough for that. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. It's going to bug me to no end.
She is recklessly running down...
Order in this House of Commons, where we're supposed to try to treat each other with respect. No one, under any circumstances, is going to be shouted down. So stop the attempted shouting down on both sides, abandon the juvenile finger-wagging which achieves precisely nothing, and let each other be heard. It's called the assertion of democratic principle. Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh, he's on the roll today, don't you think?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is recklessly running down the clock.
He's got... Okay, so yeah, he has a point here. I think actually there is some point in the sense that the vote should have happened and then we should have been working towards what to do next. Now, the obvious answer is no deal. Because the EU have said they won't negotiate any further. It doesn't mean the government is out. It just means they now need to do no deal and see it through. I don't believe a general election and a second referendum or another whatever could happen in the time frame we have.
All in a shameful attempt to make our own bad deal look like the lesser of two evils.
Well, no. No deal's better than a bad deal.
With rising crime, 20,000 fewer police on our streets, 100,000 vacancies in our National Health Service and the worst performance for any November on record last month. How can the Prime Minister justify wasting that money on no deal that cannot and will not happen?
See, that's the thing. You have to be absolutely... You have to be stupid to think that it can't... to be so naive as to think it's not a possibility. He's got a point about preparing. He's got a point about how you're spending the money, possibly. He had a point at the start of the question, in fact. But his question is based on a pretense that, no, fam, we's going to take a deal, man. In it. Swag.
I say to the right honourable gentleman that until a deal has been ratified, it is the responsible position of government, and would be the responsible position of any government to put in place contingency arrangements for no deal. But I repeat to him, if he wants to ensure that we leave the European Union with a deal, then he has to put into practice what he's saying and actually vote for a deal. And he talks, yet again, he talks about issues like the question of the number of police officers and money going into the police. We put extra money, they've made extra money available to the police this year. We made extra money available to the police, and what did the Labour Party do? They voted against it.
Right. Firstly, Otaku Gamer Judas, thank you very much for the U at $10. A small Christmas treat for your nieces' well wishes. Thank you very much. I will buy them dairy-free chocolate in the morning. They'll love that. Labour did vote against this. They voted against it, I believe, by 239 to the rest. The police approval, it did get approved, but 239 voted against it. This is one of the things that the Conservatives are pretty much mostly united on, police funding. I would point out, though, that there was a watchdog that called the government out for this nonsense by pointing out to them that while they say they're investing all this like 450 million, that's not the case at all. It's raised through taxes, and it's up to 450 million. Or 270, actually, to be precise. So I thought I'd point that out now, because it is quite important, and I'm going to close that tab, because it's going to annoy me otherwise. Where is it? No, that's the Chancellor. Jeremy Corbyn. Oh yeah, the police spending. There it is. And the watchdog rebuke. Doesn't matter. There is a quote that's going to come up soon about Liam Fox, the International Trade Secretary. I'm hoping we get to that because there's a video for that. I want to play it.
The Prime Minister should stop dithering and put it to the vote of the House.
Agreed.
Let the House make a decision on
They'd vote against it.
Her friend, the Honourable Member for Totnes, is right, is she not, when she said that the threat of no deal, and I quote, is an absolute disgrace.
It's not a threat. It's an option. Stop treating it like the boogeyman. No deal is not the boogeyman. I could show you the boogeyman if you want, but I don't know if people can handle that level of cringe.
The Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, has thrown away 2 years on her botched negotiations. Yeah. She's now recklessly wasting £4 billion of
4.2
public money.
Yeah. It's not being wasted, it's being earmarked.
She's holding Parliament and the country to ransom. Yeah. She is irresponsibly risking jobs, investment and our industries. There have been no changes, so she must put her deal to the vote. Parliament must take back control. There is no majority in this House for no deal, Mr. Speaker.
Nor is there a majority for the deal she has. So what now? Also, by the way, just because there's no majority in Parliament for no deal doesn't mean no deal won't happen. If nothing happens or no deal can be confirmed by the time we are supposed to leave, then we're fucked. There's no deal. How much money has been wasted every year by paying the EU? Well, it's supposedly about 13 billion a year, but there's actually more to it than that. You see, we cover medical costs in some things, so actually it's a bit higher. I only noticed this when I realised that we get some of our money back from countries like France who use our medical services, but we get a very small amount of what we get back from them on medical costs by comparison to what they get from us in medical costs. It's ridiculous.
Isn't this just a deeply cynical manoeuvre from a failing and utterly reckless Prime Minister?
Okay, clearly I missed... Oh, excuse me. Moist, yes. There was a quote that came out from Liam Fox about supporting changes to the deal, and I'm going to bring it up now because it... Oh, there it is. Right, so this is where it was difficult to support the changes, and I missed playing it when I had the chance. But it is important, so let's turn that down.
Well, if there's no movement on the backstop, it's very likely that one of two things happens. And that's either that, as Grant said, he would rather remain in the EU without a referendum, which I think would be a democratic affront. I think that brings a whole range of consequences. Or perhaps more likely, we then have to up our preparations for no deal and leave the European Union without an agreed deal.
Right, but my question was, if there is no change of substance or even clarification of any great meaning to the backstop, do you still support the deal?
I think that it's very difficult to support the deal if we don't get changes to the backstop. I don't think it will get through. I'm not even sure that the Cabinet will agree for it to be put to the House of Commons. Well, if there's no...
Oh, yeah, so that was important. It's what Corbyn was talking about earlier, but I, for some reason, forgot to play it. And hello, Prospero. Hope you're well. I think this might be the last question Corbyn asked as well. If it is, we get to a very juicy part of this PMQs. But it's a good bit nonetheless. What's the resolution on this? 360? We're rocking for it. This is in 480. You see this? 480. That's the maximum quality for this. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. It's going to be very hard to lip read a guy in 480p. Unless he's like wearing a wig, excessive amounts of makeup, and sat in front of a camera that does that. But we don't know anyone that does that, do we?
I have to say to the right honourable gentleman, it's a bit rich him standing here and talking about dithering. Let's see what the Labour Party did this week. They said they would call a vote of no confidence. Then they said they wouldn't. Then he said he would. Then it wasn't effective. I know it's...
It sounds like a Pokemon battle.
I know it's Christmas. I know it's Christmas. I know it's Christmas.
Order! Members must not shout at the Prime Minister. Order! Order! Calm yourselves. Try to get into the Christmas spirit. Or if you can't do that, at least listen to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They said they'd put down a vote of no confidence, then they said they wouldn't, then they said they would, then they did it but it wasn't effective. I know it's the Christmas season and the pantomime season, but what do we...
Oh god, the cringe, everyone. She's mentioned pantomime, you're about to hear some cringe. I am so not sorry. And yeah, she's right about the dithering. I'm really not sorry about this.
You see from the Labour front bench and the right honourable gentleman, he's going to put a confidence vote. Oh yes, he is. Oh no, he isn't. I've got some news for him. I've got some advice for the right honourable
The cringe
gentleman.
is real.
Look behind you. They're not impressed, and neither's the country.
Right, this is important. Right, we're focusing on Jeremy here for a reason. He's about to mouth something, and I don't think he says what everyone else has said. It's hashtag underneath this, hashtag stupid woman. Okay? Apparently he says that. I don't think he did. I think he said stupid people. So, hopefully the resolution is good enough for you to notice this. Right? I see stupid people. This has caused absolute chaos. People have gone nuts about it, saying he has done the most sexist thing ever. Calls of misogyny, right? There were people calling for Jeremy Corbyn to be hauled back to Commons over the stupid woman jibe at Theresa May. People claiming it's sexism. Celebrities on the internet going nuts saying he was sexist. You got Rob Lowe, formerly of The West Wing, tweeting out how this was disgraceful. Are you kidding me? Is that guy still going? He did not call her a stupid woman. I saw stupid people. Now, I do think if he really wanted to dig in there, he could have just called her a stupid cunt.
And just lastly,
but it is unparliamentary to do so, so, you know, he couldn't. But there is a video that I can show you. So I'm going to pull up a video of Theresa May being asked about this after PMQ. She was asked about this, and so this is the response she gets, or gives.
Prime Minister, do you believe that Jeremy Corbyn called you a stupid woman today at PMQs, or did he say stupid people? Do you want an apology?
Right. First of all, I think it's incumbent on all of us in the House of Commons to be careful about the language that we use. And I'm particularly concerned in the year in which we celebrate the 100th anniversary of women getting the vote. I would see more women encouraged to come into Parliament and not put off by the sort of remarks that they might feel have been said in Parliament. I think the Speaker made very clear that if a Member of Parliament uses inappropriate language, then they should apologise.
What a fucking bore-fest. Not an answer at all. She didn't clarify if she thought he had in fact said it. There is a denial. Corbyn does deny, in fact, outright deny saying it. So he got hauled back to Parliament. I will play a clip here of this.
And thank you for your invitation to come to make a short...
He was hauled back to Parliament. So this is his statement on the matter.
...point to the House, which I'm very happy to do and have come immediately to do that. During Prime Minister's question time today, I referred to those who I believe were seeking to turn a debate about the national crisis facing our country into a pantomime as stupid people. Mr. Speaker, I did not...
I totally agree with him. He did in fact say stupid people. There are lip readers apparently for news articles. I'm going to show... Like, you've got... Where is it? Here we go. You've got this article here with lip readers claiming otherwise. Lip readers. Oh, these geniuses. They know what they're doing. Clearly not. He said stupid people. And by the way, does fallout to this? Bercow himself was accused of... people pounced on him for the stupid women thing for not dealing with it. But he did deal with it. He called Corbyn back to explain it, and he did. With then Andrea Leadsom doing her typical thing about, you know, the sexism crap that engulfed the Speaker, which he was a bit of a bully to her. And then this person here who accused Bercow of making a similar remark about being a stupid woman, but he knew nothing of it, so he shouted, he told her to shut that. He basically just shut her down. He knew nothing of it. So quite frankly, it's just an absolute joke, really, isn't it? He did not call her, as I ask, a deaf person. You know, that's a good question, but I do firmly believe he said stupid people. And I tend to agree with him. He did not say it. I don't think, and I don't know, he's so virtuous. He really is. He would never say that. I really don't believe he would. I have to give him credit for that because he's that kind of guy. He's really up on the whole social justice thing. So it would go against everything he believed in to say it. Right, we're going to skip ahead a little because I don't care about this question. Let's go to Ian Blackford. Here we go. Everyone, get the moisturiser. Get your paper ready. Make sure it's got its chastity belt on because he's about to rape your paper.
Minister, on the atrocity of Lockerbie, and can I wish you and everyone a Merry Christmas, a time to be spending it with friends and family. I look forward to spending it on the Isle of Skye.
Leo Wolfish, they are arguing over it because this is a diverse and inclusive environment. And when equality is so important, one must not denigrate another person based on arbitrary factors like gender. I personally think if you can't resort to insulting people on basic things, like stupid whammon, then what's the point? It's considered unparliamentary, but at the same time, I think I would like... Actually, you know what? I would love to see these guys insult each other. They do everything they can to insult each other without insulting each other, because to do so is unparliamentary. So they get creative. I'd like to see them outright say... I'd like him to stand up and go, "You, Theresa May, are a stupid cunt." I'd like to see that. While waving his paper and rubbing it off.
Guy. Mr. Speaker, the British Chamber of Commerce, the CBI, the EEF, the Federation of Small Business and the Institute of Directors. They represent hundreds of thousands of businesses, and today they have said their members are
Parliament diss tracks. Now that would be fun. Oh, it's 2 S's in diss.
watching in horror at the actions of this government. Watching in horror, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister and the Conservative Party are not fit for government.
Bit rich coming from you. Your SNP are hardly doing well up north right now.
With 100 days left on the clock, this government has failed businesses. It has failed members of this House, and it has failed citizens right across the UK. Will the Prime Minister move aside and put a vote to the people?
A general election. Now that's the Christmas present nobody wants.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, first of all, actually, I think what is causing concern for businesses is the fact that Parliament has not been able to come to a decision because people... And it's no good. It's no good, honourable members on the opposition benches and in his...
He did mean general election, Socky. That's what I said, didn't I?
own party pointing across the chamber. They have a responsibility.
Oh, general erection. Fucking hell, Socky.
To deliver on Brexit for the British people as well. And it's high time they took that responsibility seriously. A deal that works for the UK, a deal that works for Scotland. That's what we're offering. It's supported by Tech UK, the Federation of Small Businesses, the Scottish Chambers of Commerce, the Scottish Whisky Association, the Scottish Fishermen's Association, oil and...
Ah, yes, but you've got to think. Only Scotland knows what's best for Scotland, not Scottish business.
Gas UK, they're supporting the deal. Why isn't he?
Well, if the Prime Minister thinks the deal is worth putting to this House, why did she pull the vote? The SNP will not stand by and watch this Prime Minister wreck our economy and rob our citizens of their rights. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, alongside other opposition party leaders, the SNP tabled a motion of no confidence in this shambolic government.
They have.
When the official opposition fails to step up, the real opposition to this Tory government will step in.
The best birthday present anyone can give me is an eye test, everyone. Yeah, just give me an eye test.
Prime Minister is now running scared and denying to give time to our motion for fear of the result. Prime Minister, are you so frightened of defeat that she will deny the Parliament another vote?
Yeah. Well, that's a wasted question. The next question is the one I want to finish on, and it's, I believe, quite important.
The Prime...
So, yeah, this question... This is a damning statement for how inadequate our Prime Minister is. Because this isn't about Brexit. This is about South Africa. And it is... Also, listen to the language used by the question. Because what is going on in South Africa is, by the very definition of the word, racist. Okay.
The Minister was completely correct to castigate the party opposite for their deeply flawed plan to snatch shares in private companies. So will she join me in also condemning the South African Parliament, who are currently taking powers to seize land from their own citizens without compensation and solely based on the colour of their skin? Mr. Speaker, this is not...
Have you noticed he's not explicitly said what colour of their skin?
Not only wrong, it is also risking putting another African country from a breadbasket into a basket case.
It's quite astonishing that the only voices of reason on this are people like Lauren Southern, who've actually highlighted it. Obviously not actually anywhere near as bad as it really is. But the fact is, what's his name? Is it Rouhani? Is that the guy's name? Oh, whatever the fucking president's name over there is. He took it back because of the outcry from the international stage, under the guise of needing to revise it. That's not it at all. He just wanted to make it more concrete so that when he took the land, he took it more convincingly. There are politicians in South Africa who've outright called for the death of white people, under the guise that, well, we won't have to, but if we have to, we're not ruling it out because we don't know the future. That's not your shit at politics. You don't say that. You never say that.
Well, can I say to my honourable friend that I...
Oh, and this answer is dog shit.
recognise the concern that he's expressed about this issue. It was an issue. The question of land reform was one which I raised with President Ramaphosa when I.
President Ramaphosa. Who's Rouhani? Who the? Yeah, and repeating number 6, Zimbabwe. Yes, Zimbabwe then didn't they try to get back the white farmers and it didn't work? I just need to quickly check because I know Rouhani is a president. Is it Iraq or Iran? I bet it is as well. Oh, and thank you /dash for the £1.99. Hey, daddy / indeed. Rouhani. Iran, right, yeah, he's the Iranian president. I had to confirm it. Smash the like button. Yes.
Visited South Africa in August.
Thank you, Prospero and Horny Hippo, for confirming that.
We recognise the concern there is and the need there is for land reform, but President Ramaphosa has consistently stated that violent and illegal land seizures will not be tolerated, and
But he's trying to legalise it. He's trying to make it legal for them to do it. It's not a legal seizure at that point if he manages to pass legislation that legalises taking land from people. Thank you /dash. You might be late, but the Streamlabs and OBS aren't working together today, so I'm not getting the alerts, which is unfortunate. I do apologise. I know you do like to cause a disturbance. Theresa May, you are wrong because you're not taking it from the correct stance that he's trying to legitimise taking it, to the point where a number of white South Africans are pushing to create an ethno-state. It's the alt-right's wet dream. Not even a joke. They are actually trying to push for that. Some are. To push for a separate state in South Africa for white people. An ethno-state. Holy shitballs. It's just amazing. And thank you /dash for the 3 subsequent donations.
Also consistently said that the process should be orderly within South African laws and taking to
LOL. Do you hear this shit? /dash, as I said, Streamlabs and OBS isn't working at the moment. I can't get it to work on OBS. I think there's an update I need to look at. Maybe. I don't think that's the case though, because the chat was working initially and then it just stopped. Sorry. She's using the wrong language here. It is the most abhorrent language I've ever heard. And Ventello, thank you for the £5 Xmas tip donation. Yeah, so I really don't like this answer. It actually pisses me off.
Consideration both the social and economic impact. We want to see a process that is fair and a process that, while it recognises the need to deliver on land reform, does that in a way that is...
There's land reform. Hashtag refund. Should have done it through Streamlabs, fam. The land reform is based on a bogus position that because white people own the majority of farming land, that they should give it up. A boomer, right? Yeah, that it's my fault that OBS and Streamlabs aren't working together. My apologies /dash. Or is it? What was it again? Daddy / was it that what you were going with? Yeah. Hey, daddy / I think was what you were going with.
It is fair to all South African citizens.
But by definition of what you've just done, or what you've just said, this is not fair, unless fair means, okay, white people just give it all up. And this guy's...
Graham Morris!
Yeah, that is the look of a man who's just got a shit answer from a Prime Minister. That is actually shit. You should be ashamed of yourself, Theresa. I kind of expected more from you on the grounds that I kind of thought maybe you would actually stand up for South Africans who are having rights taken away. But then there's the obvious why you wouldn't, because they're white. Which is naturally a problem for many people, because we can't have pesky white people doing well in society, because of course they got the land illegally. Right, that's exactly what happened. Fuck's sake. Anyway, if anyone has any questions before I finish the stream, please ask. If not, I'm gonna... Oh, the Christmas song. Yes, well, if we're not doing any more, then of course I will put it on. But it'll have to be audio only, because if I put it on video-wise... No, actually, no, I should be able to put it on. Hang on, let me find... Do that. That's the video. Okay, So if there are no questions, I will press play on this.
You better not piss, you better not shit, you better not fire, you better not get trapped by closet. He's making it down, he's touching his ass, you're going for a piss and robbing right out.
Fucking hell. Okay, I'm stopping there.